Hey students, this is lesson 10.3. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to simplify sums and differences of radical expressions and how to simplify products and quotients of radical expressions. Go ahead and do the review here and make sure you pay close attention to vocab here, the conjugate. We're going to be using that in this lesson. All right, I'll check back with you. All right, to simplify radicals, we have to know when we have like radicals and when they're unlike radicals. If they're unlike radicals, we can't simplify them. If they're like radicals, we can. They need to have the same radicand. So in this first problem, they all are like radicals because they have the same radicand. And in that case, we can use the distributive property. 2 times the square root of 11 minus 6 times the square root of 11. Notice the square root of 11 is in fact a factor of both. So we can just think of the square root of 11 distributed or factored out of both of those expressions. And 2 minus 6 is negative 4 times the square root of 11. Here we have a common factor of square root of 13. Let's factor that out. And we end up with 4 plus 4 times the square root of 13 using the distributive property. And so that simplifies to 8 times the square root of 13. This last one, we really have 1 times the square root of 7 minus 4 times the square root of 7. So the common factor is the square root of 7. So let's factor out the square root of 7. And we end up with 1 minus 4 times the square root of 7, which is negative 3 times the square root of 7. All right, you try that. All right, what is the simplified form of this? Sometimes you have to simplify the expressions first, and they may be like radicals. So you might notice that 54 has a perfect square factor of 9. If you look at 54, break it down, you get 3 times 3 times 6. So there's a perfect square factor of 9 there, so we can simplify that. So 2 times the square root of 54 is the same as 2 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 6. Square root of 9 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So that expression really simplifies to 6 times the square root of 6. So now we're going to subtract that from 7 times the square root of 6. And using the distributive property, that's the same as 7 minus 6. Factoring out the square root of 6, which is 1 times the square root of 6. All right, you try that. All right, to multiply radical expressions, again, we're going to use the distributive property and the multiplication property of square roots. When I multiply square root of 5 times the square root of 8, that's the same as the square root of 40. And when I multiply the square root of 5 times the whole number 7, that I'm just going to write as the expression 7 times the square root of 5. Then I'm going to simplify the square root of 40. The perfect square factor there is 4 times the square root of 10. And square root of 4 is 2, so I get 2 times the square root of 10 plus 7 times the square root of 5. Those are not like radical expressions, so that's as simplified as I can get. Okay, and in this next problem, we are going to use FOIL because we actually have a couple of, we can think of them as binomials. So I'm going to multiply my first two together, and that's going to give me 7 times 3, which is 21. Times the square root of 8 times 8 is 64. Okay, and then I'm going to do the outside 2, and that's 7, and square root of 8, actually it's a minus 7, and square root of 8 times square root of 11 is square root of 88. The inside 2 gives me 2 times 3 is 6, that's a positive 6. Times the square root of 88. And then my last two terms, that gives me 2 times the square root of 11 times the square root of 11, which is minus 2 times the square root of 121. Okay, this simplifies. Square root of 64 is just 8, and 21 times 8 is 168. These are like terms. I can combine them. They both have the square root of, that should be there. And so I'm just going to combine negative 7 plus 6 is negative 1, square root of 88. And 2 times the square root of 121, square root of 121 is 11, 2 times 11 is 22. The 168 and the 22 are like terms, so I can combine those. That's 146. Then I'm going to simplify the square root of 88. The perfect square factor there is 4. And so 2 times the square root of 22. All right, you try that. All right, here we have some radicals in the denominator, which we can't have in order to be simplified. So we're going to use the conjugate, and the fact that when you multiply the difference of two binomials, you get binomial squared, and when you square square root, it ends up being whole number. So the conjugate of square root of 3 plus the square root of 11 is the square root of 3 minus the square root of 11. And check out what happens when we multiply by this. And I also have to multiply the numerator by that. Square root of 3 minus square root of 11. All right. Now, using FOIL, this equals the square root of 9, which is 3. The square root of 11 times, oops, sorry about that, the square root of 3 times the square root of 11 is negative square root of 33. And when I multiply these two, I get the positive square root of 33. And those two added together cancel each other. Then I have minus the square root of 11 times square root of 11 is just 11. And on the top, we can go ahead and distribute that 8. And then we'll just simplify 8. And that gives us 8 minus 8 times the square root of 3 minus 8 times the square root of 11 divided by negative 8. That can be simplified. There's a factor of 8 in all of those. So 8 divided by negative 8 is negative 1 square root of 3. And negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1 and the square root of 11. All right, you try that. All right, solving a proportion involving radicals, painting below fits into the golden rectangle. What is the width of the painting? Round to the nearest inch. The golden rectangle has side lengths that fit into the golden ratio, and the golden ratio is the square root of 5 plus 1 over 2. So that's the golden ratio. All right, so this length to width has to equal that. And the length is 105, and the width is W. And so to solve this, W is going to equal, using the cross products property, 2 times 105 divided by square root of 5 plus 1. Well, we have a radical expression in the denominator, so we need to get rid of that. So we're going to multiply the numerator and denominator by the conjugate, which is square root of 5 minus 1. And I'm just going to leave this as the square root of 5 minus 1 for now in the numerator. And the denominator, when we multiply those binomials together, square root of 5 times square root of 5 is just 5. And 1 times -1 is a -1. 5 minus 1 is 4. And so now I get, that should be in parentheses there, 210 divided by 4. At this point, I think I want to simplify this as much as I can. 210 divided by 4 is 52.5 times the square root of 5 minus 1. I think I'd use my calculator now and find what the square root of 5 minus 1 is and multiply that by 52.5. And I think we're going to end up with about 65 if we round to the nearest whole number. So x is about 65 inches. All right, you try that. All right, it looks like we're up to the lesson check here. Go ahead and try that, and we'll talk about this next time we meet in class.